and Kalpesh as well. I know the freight forwarders and the logistics industry always have the challenge of transit times. Kalpesh would ask for a faster transit time and the cargo is not ready. So we are facing that today, that we are short by 35 odd minutes already. And then you've told me 45 minutes. So I will not waste much of a time. And what I'll do is I've got some basic starting points before I get into the questions. Just let me put those slides together, which give an idea of what's happening in India with air and ocean cargo and why these challenges are coming, because then that brings real context to the subject clearly. So what I've done basically today is for everyone's views, put some realistic data from Seabury, which gives you an idea in terms of where we stand in terms of Indian exports, imports, air and ocean separately, so that we have clarity on what is happening between May 2020 and April 2021 when we had got the impact of it. So if you look at this data clearly, the exports and imports out of this country have definitely had its impact of degrowth because of one particular month or two particular months in that. But that should have actually made our life easy in saying that there's not so much of a demand, then why should we happen? And India had of the subcontinent minus 20% on the trade. Bangladesh had minus 23, but it was more relevant to garments. Pakistan had minus 28 and Sri Lanka had just a 2%. And the other Asian countries, which are very small, have an 18% degrowth sort of a situation. But what you will have to see here is that look at the graph, which is clearly showing that last year, May, where we stand to where we stand today in April. So now someone may talk about a V recovery or a U-shaped recovery or whatever it is, but this is like a COVID spike up and down with no clear clarity in terms of what it is. And then if you look at March onwards, we are just short out of the roof. But for Kalpesh's interest, automotive has grown the highest at 57%, whereas live animals, special handling, capital equipment, machinery, high-tech, consumer, raw materials, chemicals, which include pharma, temperature control, which includes perishable and fashion goods, which is retail, have seen the biggest of degrowth in terms of the trade technically. So this is a data which would probably bring you more insight of what is happening to the trade and where we are going in a direction, because I generally see that in the other conferences or rest of them, we don't discuss sometimes on data. So I took out the time to put some data together. Now, if you look at what are our biggest countries for exports, US continues to be our largest trading partner, Germany, UK, UAE, China, France, Italy, Singapore, Netherlands, and Qatar. So that's as far the air freight is concerned. But what has actually happened is that Brazil, Latin American countries have been in larger demand and they have started to grow. So if you look at Slovakia as a country, the growth has been 61%. But I know that in terms of tonnage is not much, but Brazil's tonnage has been extremely high when compared to other countries. So the rate levels or the price levels and the demand out of the airports has gone out of the roof, and so has the freight levels have gone up. So this is just on the exports front. And then if you look at our air imports, where Manoj, Saurabh, Kalpesh, and Sunil and rest of them would get a little more insight, is that even if you look at our imports, overall you may see a degrowth in the last 12 months of minus 11%. But if that minus 11% again has come specifically because of a particular month when we did not have too much of a cargo. But if you look at now, again, the graph here is the same story of what is there in exports. From absolutely be in doldrums in May to what it is today in April, or even if you look at the May trend or June and July, the numbers are just going out of the roof completely. And again, for Kalpesh's information, 25% of it is coming from automotive. Live animals surprisingly have been 15%. Chemicals, there has not been a growth. Temperature control has degrown. Special handling, which includes ODG, degrown. Fashions have degrown. Consumer goods have degrown in terms of it. Technology has degrown. But automotive have somehow, for whatever reason, has seen the biggest amount of chunk of be it, the spare parts coming in, or fully assembled vehicles coming in, or data which we can give you. But if you see again, China remains to be our biggest partner. India keeps talking about Make in India initiatives and rest of them, but the reality remains is that without China, we don't see even our oxygen concentrators really not coming in. US being the other big trading partner, Germany being there, Italy continues to be there, and Italy is no surprise because for Kalpesh it's definitely home ground from Italy. South Korea, Japan, United Kingdom, France, Malaysia, and Singapore. So China is not a surprise because companies like MG Motors also bring from China. But Japan again is grown more than what is normal. South Korea, Indonesia, and Czech Republic. So this is a pattern that I thought is important for us to have in the first few slides as far as air is concerned. Now, quickly, if you look at ocean export from an India standpoint, it's a completely different story. And why I'm saying that is that the export is showing a 3.6% growth, import is showing a minus 6.5, and a total trade deficit of 1.5. And the Indian ocean export is not shown so much of a degrowth. It's grown 4% against air's degrowth. So if you're seeing the freight rates being high, or you are seeing the trend which has never existed, this is clearly an indication of what is happening as far as the trade is concerned. And if you look at the commodities and the graph again, you can see the graph has again not a straight line, it's not a curve, but it's completely now off the roof, which means the demand has gone out of the roof, which is 40% than what it was in the middle of the year when compared to last year. So the raw materials are on outbound chemicals, consumer goods, you name it, everything have seen a substantial growth. Pharma, which we think is really grown to the extent what it should have, is more or less at 6% for the non-temp cargoes, and the temp cargo is seen a 9% degrowth. Now, if you look at the countries, you look at we exporting to China, and then that is where I think is a reverse trend that we are seeing really. While US continues to be the largest market, China continues to be one country which has grown 43% when compared to the previous year as far as outbound is concerned. And that is something which people would have not even realized, that China is seeing such a huge demand. And surprisingly, pharma is going substantially even into China from India at this point of time. We are exporting into Bangladesh from India, which is seeing a big spike, evidently. And other countries have either not seen so much of a growth. West Africa is one little bit of a spike at 54%. But Bangladesh and China seem to be completely a different story. Now, if you look at our imports into India, is the same situation. It's just a 7% dip. Not really much, because last year, just after April complete lockdown, no big containers had actually come in, or there was difficulty in clearing it. But if you look at the import scenario, the influx of imports is huge, continues to remain high from that drop when compared to things. So our imports is high on technology, chemicals, temperature control. So you can see the dominant part of it. So the last bit is to just tell you is that, look, what has to come from China continues to come. I don't think that has made much of a difference. But what is surprising from the data is that there's a lot of import that has started from South American countries. Countries like including Tanzania, Portugal, Greece, Oman, which have been new contributors. But whereas Russia, Thailand has been a big importing country for us for the automobile vertical and the white goods, but that has seen a dip. So these are some of the trends that we've started to see now in the last 12 months. So I quickly thought it's important for the group to have these insights. And maybe I will start with Kalpesh himself, because Kalpesh, you are in the forefront now with the automobile vertical, seen growth in the last 12 months. And so if you all are finding it difficult to get your raw materials or anything, then you know the fact why we are not able to support. So maybe you can think what was the positive in the last couple of months in these challenges, and what could have been better from an industry standpoint.
Okay, thank you, Satish. First of all, uh, congratulations to ICM for coming up with this event in spite of challenging times, because this is a platform I think which we all, including our participants, enjoy a lot, and we definitely carry a lot of productive things out of this discussion. So keep it up, ICM, and I would request Dr. Singh and Girish and his team to continue with these efforts. Thank you. Second, Satish, thank you very much for setting up the context for this discussion. And auto industry, which I always call it as a Bollywood of the industries. Okay, so we are at the forefront, correct, and obviously for both for the wrong reasons and right reason, correct. And when the industry is growing, let me just pick up from the demand side. I think you saw the number which Satish showed. So there was a tremendous pressure from the demand side, meeting the numbers and ensuring that we satisfy the customer demand. At the same time, on the supply side, we all know, correct, and we all know the famous semiconductor chip scenario, what's happening globally, number one. Number two, Satish just talked about some of the numbers of the imports and exports. We all know what kind of disruptions the sea freight, ocean freight has gone with, or even the air freight has gone with. So one side there is a demand, and second side there are a lot of uh, supply constraints. Correct. So it was a very difficult battle. Now, if I have to correlate, let me just mention that I think we all see this kind of disruption probably once in a century, and we are fortunate enough to have gone through this and seen this kind of demand, because whenever there is a adversity, I think we always come up with a opportunity and solutions. Okay, so now, and one more thing, let me just mention to set up the context that this particular pandemic scenario was such that the constraints were always dynamic and moving. It started from China, then it moved to like other part of the Western world. Eventually, it came to the developing countries like India, and again there was a second wave. So the constraints were rotating. Okay, so it was a real kind of challenging situation. Now, how we went through, correct? So I think first and foremost was that there was a demand, which was a like good problem to have for all of us as part of the automotive industry. Now, subsequently, what we did, see, auto industry predominantly, all of you know that works with mostly one supplier for one component. And you know, in a typical automobile, the bill of material always contains around like 2000 to 2500 parts or sub-assemblies, correct? Typically, I'm saying, correct? So now, even if you don't have a one part or one raw material, it really kills you. It really, you can't produce, correct? Similarly, I'm talking about India, what we have seen in last couple of months. One state is like where my plant is located is running, but other states are under lockdown. Now, there are always the supply chain of automotive is global, and when we talk in context of India, it is a pan India kind of scenario. So even if a one supplier is not there, are not able to supply to the demand of a component, we cannot produce. So first and foremost, I just remember Dr. Singh and like all members who are regularly part of the ICM forums know about the concept which is propelled by Dr. John Gatorna, and which I think really help is how dynamically we can align our supply chain. Correct. So I think I would say we were watching the situation so closely to ensure that dynamically how we can align to make sure that supply side constraints do not become a bottleneck to meet the demand side requirements. And what we did basically is and a minute back before we started this discussion, I think our SAP gentleman just presented the technology. Now I'll not go deep into like the high tech kind of technology or which is going to be the future, but first and foremost thing which really help us is that how good we are in terms of knowing our supply partners on the supply side. That really help us. Now auto, you all know that like from the OEM to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 up to the raw material level. I think better if the visibility, better we can manage the constraints. That really help. So we just put the system in place to make sure that we have a complete visibility. And luckily, being a global company and we have been working in this domain for quite long, we had a very good visibility of our entire supply chain. That's the first and foremost important part. Second is, it was very important for all our global stakeholders to stay connected during these times, which we did through the medium of technology. So we were like always connected to understand what's happening and monitoring the situation. Once we get the availability of the components from any part of the world, the biggest challenge which we are facing was to get the containers or to get the schedule to book it through ocean. And in case of air shipments, we all know that because of the pandemic, there is a tremendous reduction in the capacity, whereas the demand was there. So capacity reduction really drove the rates to the sky high. But in spite of all that thing, mandate was very clear that there is an end customer waiting and we cannot make him wait further. So this was another thing. Third thing which happened when we were going through this pandemic, basically there are always a transshipments when the cargo is coming from Latin America or North American ports to India. So all the transshipment ports also were getting heavily clogged because of XYZ reasons, which you all know, correct? And the last element, which was all the ecosystem of supply chain. In that, the main resource was the people who were managing the supply chain. And on the people side, I think they had like personal issues, correct? Either they were suffering, the relatives were suffering. So that was another bottleneck. But still, one thing which really helped us is that we tried to make sure that we all stay connected throughout the ecosystem to understand and know what's happening dynamically throughout the world in our entire supply chain. Number two, all our logistics service providers, we were regularly in touch to understand the scenario from their side, what's happening in each part of the locations where we're operating, and working with them to devise the alternate solutions. Let me tell you, in last 6 months, the kind of solutions which we have used, we have never used in our normal business scenario. So thanks to all our logistics service providers, knowing the situation, understanding our customer demand, and we made sure that they understand our customer expectations so that they can also align with our requirement, which we did it wonderfully during this time, correct? And on the, see, these were all short terms to make sure that we just try to meet our customer demand. Now I'll just take a little bit pause and just mention about what are we going to do for the future. Okay, because future also it is expected that the automotive industry, especially the passenger vehicle market, is from a medium term kind of sentiments is going to grow. Now there, the chip shortage, I think, let me admit, and we have discussed this internally within our companies, even across our OEMs, why we went into this semiconductor chip issue. So basically, see, we thought it's a small tiny chip, correct? So whatever we need, but whatever time we need, whatever quantity, it will be available. We, in fact, as a part of the whole auto industry ecosystem, could not foresee the demand and make sure that who all are the suppliers, whether they are capacitized to meet those demands. And unfortunately, we went into these problems because, as we all know, when we went into this pandemic, the demand for the chip increased for like other items like the tablets or the mobile phones or the computers, which was very much required, which was never foresighted. But one lesson which we have learned very importantly as part of pandemic is that we need to, even our smallest of smallest suppliers, be very transparent and at least give our medium to long term kind of view, at least on next 3 to 4 years horizon, because creating the capacity, even if someone wants to invest, takes time. And that's where we realize, and we are now trying to reorganize, rethink our supply chain. One, in terms of the global diversity, what kind of checks and balances we need to have so that we have better resilience in our supply chain system. And second, work with our partners and give them a good visibility, maybe like, see, we were giving up to 12 months kind of visibility, but now we have decided that we need to give them further visibility also, plan A and plan B, so that in case if there is a capacity bottlenecks which are being seen, probably they can be addressed well within the time. So I think it was a good story out of pandemic for auto industry, but we have learnt our lessons both for short term, medium term, and long term. And we are trying to make sure, of course, like I'll just end with a note on the technology part, that going forward, once is what we are doing today to stay connected and make sure that the information flow is real time. Now there are a lot of tools available, and if we are able to use these tools in our day-to-day life, I think our response and agility and resilience would be much better going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Kalpesh. I think you touched upon many aspects on the aspect of being connected to your partners, the capacity reductions, people issues, and the semiconductor shortage and the resilience, agility, visibility, and fully agree to that. That these are the buzzwords in which we have to live now, and we also learned the thing. So from Pune, I can go comfortably to Manoj Singh in Mumbai, who's been in the thick of the storm always, because whenever we speak to carriers, they say we've got embargo into Bombay. But you will continue to be in the thick of the storm, Manoj. We can't help. And maybe you want to throw light how this whole pandemic has impacted Mumbai in terms from having excess capacity to no capacity to again demand coming up, and that will result in all type of spikes in terms of manpower, in terms of handling equipment, and then now the monsoon coming up, resulting in further things for Mumbai. So maybe that's a good thing for us to know.
Yeah, thank you, Sadish. First of all, let me again, what Mr. Pathak mentioned was about thanking ISM and especially Dr. Singh. He's been very, very, very different. His forums are different, and his kind of panelists are very, very different. A very good mixture of every supply chain player. So it's an honor to be part of this. Is third year in these sessions. It's very, very different. And Satish has been also holding the air cargo industry. He's been seen as a host for every sessions in every network. So congrats to Satish as well. And he's holding our industry in a very, very positive way. And congratulations to Satish also. Before I begin on Mumbai, I would like to really give a glimpse of what exactly in this last 2 years of this pandemic, which was not known to the world, and how it transpired and changed the perception, changed the attitude, a fear factor, things which we never expected things to go. But overall, the industry, as far as air cargo industry is concerned, had been, economic slowdown did happen, but again it boomed. And there were different channel of supply chain which really helped. If you see April and May, the global air cargo industry has grown as compared to the last year. To an extent, the manufacturing industry really helped. Of course, the data which Satish mentioned, it is basically from May 20 to April 21. As he mentioned rightly, there are 2 or 3 months, because when the pandemic started off, the global hit on air cargo, especially with the aviation sector, got hit for first 3-4 months. But when you see in terms of how it rebounds back with the capacity constraint on the belly, but it moved around with the freighter. So there was one side enough, because the passenger flight, the belly capacity gives in more of capacity for a cargo to move, and airlines have a choice, and the freights are also stable. But when the got shrinked, the belly capacity got shrinked, it just moved into a freighter capacity. So if you see overall, the whole overall ecosystem of the global scenario, especially the global hub stations, were in a fear factor, and they never knew what the SOP would be. And because of that, and the lesser of the capacity by the airlines, big players who were operating all over the globes, the freight rate moved up. And of course, the freight forwarders and all these suppliers, especially the shippers and consignees, had a big impact, and there was a huge margin between the air freight as well as the shipping line. But now it's been very, very positive. The capacities are boomed up again. The economy has really moved up. And you can see even on the freight, 26%, 26 rather, I want to be very specific, 26.2% in fact on the freighter aircraft tonnage per kilometers have been higher as compared to 2019. So you can see a very positive trend. But again, I go back to the capacity constraint. It is bound to happen, because Asia Pacific has around 42% as per the IATA, 42% as compared to 2019. It's going to be lesser, but compared to 21, it's going to be big, going to be on a double-digit percentage on a hike on getting more procurement of the aircraft. So there are good positive side on the air cargo industry, but this pandemic is going to remain. It's going to be called as endemic, So one has to see that, the government and the private sector have to work together to see that the more of capacity and global connectivity is still maintained, and all we supply chain players have to work together on this. And of course, we've seen in last 2 years of this challenge, the private sector, the global private sectors have played a very, very vital role ensuring the supply of goods from one end to the other end, and everyone must work together. It's not about the regulatory, but about the big players who are into the supply chain distributions. And these are all positive sides. The challenges which are going to be there is, when I talk about Mumbai, you mentioned, I'll come to the last what we are doing. But in overall scenario, if you see the pre-COVID volumes and what is being now, I think most of the airports have reached those pre-COVID volumes in March. And as far as Mumbai is concerned, we have reached almost on international side 106%. So that's a very positive side. But when you see the product related stuff, the pharma grew very well in Mumbai. Being Mumbai airport has the largest airport base in the world as far as the facility and the throughput capacity is concerned. We have seen those challenges we had in the month of, we have never slept. I think most of the industries on air cargo has seen that most of the airports had a very different task force, and right from the ministry, everyone has worked together to make an SOP which was not well defined, and everyone came together. And looking into all these aspects, if you see, the positive side was on the fear factor to the distribution of vaccines. Mumbai has been very fortunate because it's a mixture of every product. You've got auto industry, the pharma, these two are the biggest gateway for the world. And as an option, you have Pune, the complete 80% of the volumes comes to Mumbai. And those infrastructures are well in place. And you can see we were lucky to have all these facilities and most of the infrastructure well in place 2 years in advance. And that really helped, only pharma was moving towards during the pandemic situation. And I hats off to the whole ecosystem which worked together. And of course, as on date, I would say 173 million of doses have been moved from Mumbai airport within 92 countries. And within the city also, within the country, more than 42 destinations we have served. So it all shows that how on the river side, every supply chain player, be it cargo operators, the freight forwarders, the utility handlers, we lost few of our officers, critical people. I remember we lost our security manager who was whole night on the first day of distribution was there on the tarmac, but he couldn't get the vaccine. So there has been ups and downs, but overall, the infrastructure is well in place at Mumbai. And, we're looking for Navi Mumbai also coming with double of capacity. It will be almost catering almost 60% of the total volumes of air cargo from India would be moving from Mumbai. And that's our endeavor is. And we're working towards those synergy. And just to share, by next 10 days, we'll be launching world's very innovative digital docket delivery system, which will be first of its kind in the world, where again, looking into this pandemic situation, we evolved and tried to give us solutions to the stakeholders, wherein the dwell time is going to further decrease. But give you a data of one more thing. During this pandemic, one thing which is very, very clear, Satish, everyone learned that how the logistic could be furthermore engulfed into a process which can be much more fast, and everyone has to work together on that. The medical supplies and all the vaccines and other distributions moved up. This is a lesson to learn to everyone actually. That when this worked together, the other product also started moving faster. The dwell time, which is basically now I can share of last 3 months of Mumbai. Saurabh is there, and maybe Sunil can also mention about how he perceived from the Akai, from the trade. Almost 68% within the free period is moving, and journey from 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 68% moving within the free period, and few hours and few minutes. Rather, certain shipments are moving within 2 hours of arrival. So the journey from one end to the other end, people have started learning more. That today also you have a session here on a digital platform. It becomes so easy even on a weekday, Satish, you're troubling us to be on the session. So this could have not been there if you would have called me on a session at the hotel or any of the hotels on a weekend. You'll say no, not possible at all. But here, this is a big advantage is you're connected, and we are here for solutions. And hats off to the whole system where all have worked together. I think we were the voice of the world actually for the people, and we should feel proud that uh, even in this pandemic we hold our guns. And aviation industry also realized that the air cargo industry plays the most important role. I think I've not seen any of our key airport heads also have been being restless or being tired, or the freight forwarder industry, all the key players. It was, we have 7 WhatsApp group, can you imagine, working on a product where we never allowed the customers to be a question mark on our industry. So it's like you mentioned about monsoon. I think it's been well geared up. So yeah, Mumbai is pioneer. I mean, known for monsoon all over the city. The whole challenges come, but we are all geared up. We have seen certain cyclones coming in, and we were all geared up. No major impact. So we will continue to ensure that what we are in the perception of our industry to hold our hands together and work together in this.
Thank you, Manoj. I think you've touched upon all critical aspects, including the dwell time, which the industry has always been complaining about, and including the document delivery. And today there was an article also from the government and customs in terms of the dwell time further reducing. So I will not hold further, but ask Sunil, because the air cargo industry has been in the limelight for all the good things now. Industry wants us more and more. You know, we are being asked to speak on various forums because the industry realizes that we are the backbone of many things now. And Akai has been representing the larger unorganized sector, whose voice is always important. And maybe you can share some more lights in terms of what challenges and what positives that have come out of this pandemic for in the challenging times.
Thank you, Satish. Am I audible and clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, good evening, fellow panelists and everybody. Congratulations to Dr. Singh for organizing such fantastic symposiums. And thank you, and I hope you will continue doing that. And namaskar, Mr. Pathak and Saurabh, Manoj Bhai. It's always been a pleasure with you, being with you on any forum. So coming straight to the point, I think my fellow panelist Manoj has covered everything what I wanted to speak. Thank you very much for doing that for me, making my life more easier. So I'm going to change everything to a new platform or a new level. I absolutely agree with what Manoj said, that disruption leads to innovation. This is for sure. Had this pandemic not come, whatever we are seeing today, whatever the new innovations, the new adaptation of technology, as Mr. Pathak also said, the newer ways of handling cargo, then they would have not come. And even if they would have come, they would have not come with that pace. They would have not come with that urgency. They would have not come with that way to explore and adopt new procedures and policies, and also make our entire industry more resilient towards such situations. And of course, opportunities come, we explore, we and along with that, we are growing also. This has also happened, and this pandemic has really shown us a way forward into a new horizon, which is not thought about. I absolutely agree with Manoj. For such meetings, we used to travel pan India and even at times overseas to participate on a similar way and to speak exactly same for half an hour and 45 minutes and spending 3 days, 2 days, hotel expenses. But now everything is at ease, sitting in your office at home with a cup of coffee and arranging everything. So it has advantages, it has disadvantages. Disadvantages is the physical touch that we don't get with our friends that we have always enjoyed. But anyhow, moving to the industry, certain issues like uncertainty, demand supply disaster, facilitation issues are gradually getting over by every day. By every day, these were the issues that we were talking as soon as the pandemic came in. But now these are going away, and we need to adapt the new scenario very fast. This is very important. One important aspect that I would like to touch upon the figures that Satish gave. A very eye opener. We could see a lot of major commodities, especially the air commodities. Air export commodities. Since I represent ACAI, which is an air cargo agents association body, primarily dealing with air export commodities. These commodities have shown a decline, a very significant percentage of decline, and this has resulted. I know government and is more bothered about a collective exim figures. That I could see a clipping what Satish sent today, that there has been a 63% increase year on year as compared to the last year figures. But actually speaking, has there ever been an analysis done that how many exporters, how many importers, or even freight forwarders have gone out of business because of this pandemic condition? And this condition primarily is related to increased freight rate cost, increased logistics cost. This is affecting the MSME industry. So my appeal through this forum would be that the government needs to take some very proactive action to protect this industry, which is a significant percentage of the exporting or importing community. We need to do certain exercise where we see how many organizations have gone out of business. What is happening is the biggers are becoming bigger. The larger organizations are able to afford innovation, getting into new technology, but small, medium-sized entrepreneurs cannot, or small, medium-sized companies are not able to, put in that sort of investment into their business where they could say. So I would appeal that, lowering of interest rates, which is very, very important, providing the 2x, 3x credit facilities. This is very important. Rationalization of logistic handling cost. It is very important because in such pandemic, what has happened is even if the costs have not gone up from the origin or from the actual suppliers, the cost employed on the export or import commodity has been jacked up and it has gone haywire. And I do agree that air capacity or air cargo capacity demand supply situation has controlled the freight rates. But when it goes beyond a particular level, when our Indian commodities, whether it is import or export, cannot afford that higher freight rate cost, then freight rate control mechanism should be brought in place, which I have been harping on at various scenarios. If not controlling, I would say certain limitations or certain parameters or certain bars have to be put in place so that a garment which is $3.95, a t-shirt which is $3.95 cannot afford a $5 freight. If it cannot afford, then it cannot be sold in US, and in that case, our exports is going to go down. I'm just giving you a simple example, and that goes for even automotive import commodities. The pharmaceuticals, okay, you can very well take care of it. You see the figures. The majority is petroleum products. Then it is gold. I don't think so that an ordinary freight forwarder or an ordinary medium size importer or exporter is handling these commodities. So automotive industry, pharmaceutical industry, high precision instrument, high technology, they can be a risk. But we need to really look into this and how can do it. As one of my earlier speaker panelists said, that leaking roofs still remain. That's fantastic. So these needs to be plugged. These really needs to be plugged. Labor, workforce, salary, establishment expenses. These are going on for months and months with no revenues coming in. So this is affecting the industry. We need to integrate better. We need to be a little realistic at the ground level policies. I would like to touch upon some facilitation issues also. I would see that policies are made fantastic. They're very good. We need to develop some best practices of COVID times, and let us examine how it is happening in China or in America, and then adopt those best practices in India. This is very, very important. And I'm not talking of an all time. I'm talking related to this pandemic scenario. That what are these best practices that we can really do it and standardize the same in our country. And of course, I agree for a resilient supply chain, collaborative planning, and execution of policies along with the government is very, very important. And in fact, the entire ecosystem, as Mr. Pathak said, that it requires change and requires an adaptability. So I think air freight commodities should be given a little more emphasis, a little more attention by the government, and we as freight forwarding community is all committed to provide along with our partners, whether they are airports, whether they are other allied agencies. We thank them for the support, and as Manoj said, freight forwarding community has also worked hard. Not a single day, even an absolute lockdown, our staff has been at the airport. They have worked in and out, morning, evening, and believe it or not, I don't think the industry or the government can actually thank them. And they have been the front runners, front workers. They have risked their lives, and they're working day in day out. And this is a joint effort. But thank you very much for bringing in such important issues. But my submission would be that industry should look at how to revive the MSME sector in the freight forwarding industry, in the export and the exporters lobby, and also in the importers lobby. Thank you, Satish, and of course I'm here to take any questions.
Thanks, Sunil. I think you brought in important aspects for the SME sector in the freight forwarding industry, who can't afford such huge freight rates for cash flow as well, and survival has been a big question mark. I'm glad you're on the panel. But I kept Saurabh waiting because he's sitting in my hometown, Hyderabad, relaxed there in a nice airport, always ready to help. Because you have probably the advantage of being centrally located, being an advantage which could have been capitalized better if we had more aircrafts coming into your airport and having connectivity. But you've also gone through those challenges of up and down from the COVID times. I know we have all bounced back now to a better scenario. And maybe how were those difficult days? And you may want to throw light on any other aspect, given the constraint of time that I have from the organizers. Over to you, Saurabh.
Thanks, Satish. So, Sunilji mentioned about his challenge of speaking after Manoj spoke. So he didn't think about me. After Manoj and Sunilji having you spoken at length, then some very, very deep insights have come onto the table. I first, will answer the first part of the question, Satish. Yes, Hyderabad is centrally located. Yes, it's an hour's drive from all the major metros in the south, and it is, yes, the pharma, one of the major hubs of pharma and vaccine manufacturing in India and abroad. I think almost 70% of what we export, a little more than 70% of what we export comes under the temperature controlled category. This is the highest proportion in any airport in the country today. So eventually we are very geared up to, and our people team, and I give you an example. Most airports have pharma zone separate. They have a perishable zone separate. They have a big general export, very sizable size. But if you talk about Hyderabad, we have our entire export as 15 to 25. Everybody exporting is cool. And within that we have subsections below for a temperature below 15, and we cater to 2 to 8, minus 20 and all. I think over the last decade, realizing where we are and understanding from our customers what kind of cargo, what kind of sensitive cargo that they are generating. There's a lot of, I should say, improvements that we have done. In the last 2 years, I should say, the proportion of vaccine has increased significantly. Now we, even in domestic, tons and tons of vaccine goes out from Hyderabad into almost 40 plus destinations across the country on a regular basis, including today morning. And so is the case with the vaccines, for being manufactured by 4 or 5 major players. So, that's how I think over the last couple, 1.5 years, all the airports, including Hyderabad, you played a major role in import of and export of both medicinal products as well as the equipments. Talking about some other issue, two, three key issues, Satish, I want to quickly touch, in the interest of time. Very important thing Sunilji mentioned about, innovation. I would say that our industry is needs affordable innovation. It's a very price sensitive industry. We we are all working towards ensuring how any new technology adoption can be least priced. That's one aspect I want to highlight. The second aspect is, people say, that, the capacity, there's a mismatch in the demand and capacity. But I think, the way industry has delivered in the last, couple of months has been amazing. I think today, if you see the contribution of air cargo, I should say, among all the forms of transportation and the way we know, has been very significant. And I see if you years to or months to come, it will be great. So I think, in the interest of time, just to close it out, that part of the logistics, part of the supply chain, air cargo, I think has moved, 2 to 3 steps ahead, from where it is towards, the concept of being in the decision makers boardroom. I think there was some discussion earlier. It's a big step and it's going to help us a lot going ahead. Thank you, Satish.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. I know that in the past, people would never consider taking air cargo or freight forwarding as a career. But today I see the demand that in the conferences that we speak, and afterwards the LinkedIn requests that come in for the industry itself is quite encouraging. We are seeing that supply chain is becoming a major career platform for many universities. And so Rakesh Singh will have more forums to conduct, and he'll have better speakers also that in the coming days. So Rakesh, you are in the right business, fortunately. And we have also never got opportunity to sleep. So I will not keep Umesh and his panel waiting, and just quickly summarize by saying that the industry has learned its hard lessons in very quick time. Whatever Kalpesh mentioned about resilience, agility, visibility have been true to their definition. There have been some hard lessons also we have lost. So I respect all the people whom we have lost during this pandemic in the supply chain, because they have tirelessly not even thought about anything and worked hard to make sure that others are happy in terms of getting their medicines. But they decided to lay their lives, and not that they are armed forces, but they need to be given that due recognition, Sunil. And I think as an industry, we need to make sure that all those people who have lost their lives are compensated in whichever way, in terms of creating employment for their families, or in terms of whatever the government can do. Otherwise, I think we as large organizations are committed to support all those people who need the help. And with those words, I will hand it over to Girish. But I think this group can connect also through ISCM once again to address any other issues.